Hey guys, it's Joe and Louise. Today is Monday, January 7th, 2019. We were originally not going to release any videos out of respect for both the Crowley and Alam families and their friends. However, a lot's been going on since actually before the holidays, and some of this stuff really needs to be addressed. So my apologies, actually both of our apologies and the apologies of the group to the Alams, to the Crowley, and to everybody, Danny, Sean, Adam, everybody. What we wanted to talk about today and need to get addressed today is several videos have been coming out over the last few weeks. I think the one we're gonna handle one particularly, right, Louise?
Yeah, that's right, Joe.
Okay, so which one are we gonna do? We're gonna do evidence marker number 6, correct?
Yeah, it ties into the blunt force traumas, doesn't it?
Okay. There was a video that came out. It was published by an individual and it was put on YouTube, and what it claims is that, actually let me back up a little bit. For those of you who are listening and are not familiar with what's going on, this case is a case that stems out of Apple Valley, Minnesota from back in January of 2015. David Crowley was a Iraq and Afghanistan war veteran. His wife Kamel, his daughter Rania, and himself were living in Apple Valley. On January 17th, the family was found by one of the neighbors, Judy Prochnow, and her husband, Colin, after they had gone out to pick up some Christmas gifts that they had noticed had been on the porch for quite some time. They apparently looked into the window and saw the bodies and immediately called 911. The police came out, and the rest is contained in a year's worth of police reports and lab testing and all kinds of stuff. David was working on a movie called Gray State, which had to do with a lot of dark subject, basically we in the U.S. losing our liberties. This left the death and the way the deaths were pretty ripe, or as Corey from one of the newspaper City Pages put it, catnip for conspiracy theorists. And they've turned this into not only a conspiracy, but they've actually turned this whole tragedy into a travesty. So getting back to things, they found David, Kamel, and Rania. The police department did their thing. There was a year-long investigation. It was pretty extensive. They determined that what occurred was that David killed his wife, killed his 5-year-old daughter, and then turned the gun on himself. Obviously, the family died of gunshot wounds. All the gunshot wounds were to the head, right, Louise?
Yeah, that's right.
So they were all, to the head. They actually found a bullet lodged in the ceiling about a month later, which was overlooked. When you get into a big scene, no matter what it is, police, fire, EMS, you tend to have tunnel vision. They were looking at everything eye level and below. Apparently they knew there was a bullet in the ceiling, but there were so many people that were in there. I guess BCA thought that Apple Valley had it, Apple Valley thought that BCA had it, and then some family friends came into the house approximately a month later, and when they were speaking to the investigators, they said, hey, the bullet hole in the ceiling, and they went back and they went and they found that bullet. That left another avenue open to claim conspiracy. The thing is, in order to have a conspiracy to this magnitude, somebody would have had to break into Apple Valley PD and take the weapon out of a locked evidence vault, bring it back to the scene, fire a round, have to place David's DNA on the round. It's just mind-boggling. I don't even know.
You'd also have to get signatures on the stickers that were sealing each item of evidence.
Not to mention the actual seals. Yeah, the actual seals too.
And you'd have to replicate them, and you'd have to beat the security camera.
Right,
to get the evidence out and back in.
Right. Theories started coming out abound. Actually, some of these theories were just out there. I mean, as far as the gun goes and what we were just talking about, we actually had an individual say that somebody followed David to the gun range one day, picked up one of the bullets, the spent bullets, and brought it back somewhere and repacked it, fired it in its present state, so mushroomed, out of the chamber of the gun, which is physically impossible, and that's how the DNA was there. But anyways, in addition to that, all these theories flew around. That one, there were theories that the family was kidnapped. There were theories that they were tortured, they were beaten, there was a bloodletting. there were autopsies done on the family, and the autopsy showed nothing of that sort rather. For those of you who do not know, the family was estimated that they were in the home at approximately 68 degrees. That's what the thermostat was set on, for a period of close to 3 weeks or over 3 weeks. The bodies were decomposed to the point that they were getting skeletized, and it was pretty bad. I mean, the officers that arrived on the scene, when we were reading their police reports, they outright state that they can smell the decomposition outside of the house. The Crowleys also owned a Beagle mixed dog named Paleo, and he was in the home and he scavenged the bodies. But we'll get into a lot more details on this stuff in another show. I think we want to try to grasp this. I wanted to give you guys some background, but I think we want to go specifically on this right here. Evidence marker number 6. Evidence marker number 6 was placed on, and this is according to the lab reports, the police reports, etc. And for those of you who are watching or who have access to these documents that I'm talking about, you can find them on the internet without a problem. The laboratory analysis request, right on the front page. Okay, I'm looking at it as I'm speaking to you guys. Item number 6.
You can find it on page 8, page 57, and page 76 of the BCA report. Okay,
so you got it on the BCA reports. I have it on page 104 of the lab analysis request as well. I have it on page, still page 1. Page 1 of 11 of the result of field examinations for the crime scene team, dated 3/11 of 15. Now, item number 6, there seems to be some discrepancy out there, because there's an individual stating that item number 6 is actually a piece of David's skull. The evidence markers that were used, there's several different evidence markers, and I've actually, Louise is aware, we actually spoke to a law enforcement agent, and there's different types of evidence markers. There's some that you will see that just simply look like a little triangle that sits down. There's other ones that are like a triangle, but they're rounded on the bottom, they're kind of big. And
there's the stickers as well. Stickers on the wall, with the little measuring guides on them.
Right, and there's also these yellow evidence markers. They have a little cut. It looks almost like an L with a ruler. And what happens is, when the officers are taking crime scene pictures, and they want to point something out, and for those of you who want to follow along on some of this, I'll have you go to marker number 7. I'm not going to have you go crazy. In the BCA photos, you're going to look at BCA photo BCA 4766 and BCA 4767. You'll see a bullet there, and you're going to notice that that bullet is literally sitting in that L. And that's because if you go back to the field reports or the lab analysis request and you look up number 7, you're going to see one manila envelope containing evidence classified as a cartridge, okay, or you're going to find something referencing the bullet. Now, when you go in there and you find that, you're going to, it references what's there. Item number 6, which is the one we're talking about, comes back one manila envelope containing evidence classified as other, and then the description is going to come out and state book page with apparent blood from the living room. So this is a page that was torn from the Quran, right, Louise?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a complete single page, and it's by the scarf, and the little yellow sign is lined up with the corner missing at the corner of the book.
Right, so, I mean, we're not saying that the skull isn't near the evidence marker. We're saying that the evidence marker is not dedicated to the skull.
It's correct. It's specifically for the book page, because otherwise you could say it could mean the scarf, it could mean that particular part of the carpet, it could mean anything that was in that photo. But with the itinerary list, you cross-reference,
right,
and you can find out for sure that they are talking about a page from the book with an apparent blood stain on it.
Right, exactly. So, and if you look, there's other evidence markers as well. As a matter of fact, these photos, you can actually tell when they were taken as well. There's another evidence marker, number 8, which is a knife, which was another whole thing. The picture of the knife was actually taken January 17th, 2015 at 7:06 p.m. on scene. The size of the picture is 3.3 megabytes. The actual dimensions of it are 3872 by 2592 pixels. It was shot with a 35mm lens at ISO rating of 400. The camera the police were using for the crime scene photos was actually a D200. So all this stuff goes into determining size and this and that, but we're not saying, like I said, and Louise, just reiterated that marker 6 wasn't near the skull piece. However, what we are saying is everybody keeps saying marker number 6 is the skull piece. That's not what it is. The other thing is they're taking not only marker 6 being the skull piece, but they're saying that the skull itself, the piece to the skull, is showing or exhibiting signs of blunt force trauma.
And that it's also been stated that it's been verified that definitely belongs to David Crowley.
Correct. I want to note from the autopsy reports that if you go to the autopsy report for David, I mean the autopsy reports are also available for all 3 of the victims. If you go to the autopsy reports and you look in the section, you're going to look in internal evidence, and it's going to state in part that there were, brown paper bags with bone fragments near 15066, which was David's tag number on his body bag. It says there's multiple fragments of bone and hair. There was a maxilla, well-preserved natural teeth. It's also going to say that multiple dimension skull bone fragments were there as well. The sizes are 1.5 to 14.5 centimeters maximum dimensions, so that's going across. When you go into the evidence pictures, you're going to see where those markers are. You'll see one piece near marker number 6, but there's also another piece by marker number 8.
Just underneath the blue blanket, isn't it?
Right, correct. It's under the knife is there, and then so we know that marker 8 was the knife, but it's the same setup. It was near it. So if you're looking, there's a piece that articulated, like they put the skull together for David, well, at least most of the way, and a 14.5 centimeter part actually fit, but an 8.5 centimeter part didn't. And these skull pieces, we need to say, were not DNA tested, at least as far as I know. They may have them in, they may have them in DNA tested in reports that haven't been released, but I don't know.
I'm sure they've got further pictures of them being measured and everything else for the official autopsy records, but nothing's been publicly released. There's not been one single photo with any ruler marks beside any body part to measure it, to identify it at a later stage for the general public that I know of. I mean, other people might have got other information, but if you're going to say that you have evidence, you have to present that evidence not just as your opinion, but as a fact, with the facts.
Right, exactly. And then there's other things out there as well. We had an individual, actually, is it 2 or 3 individuals, Louise, that are out there saying that they got evidence from a coroner or a deputy coroner?
I think it's 2 people that have said coroner of varying different, and this is supposed to be 2 different coroners. It's a coroner and a deputy coroner.
Okay, and those deputy coroners and coroners are just like, as far as we know, those are not coroners that were involved in the actual investigation. They're just people that are, so it's hearsay.
Yeah.
And nobody's come out and said Dr. So-and-so or...
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
Or I've not seen any letter that's written saying that they've looked at X amount of evidence and that their professional opinion is this and what they intend to do with it now. Because surely if you're a coroner, you have a heck of a lot of responsibility and a duty of care.
Well, yeah, I mean, if say I showed the evidence picture to a coroner in Connecticut, and they looked at it, because my understanding from one of the videos is somebody was looking at the picture and it was like, this is really bothering me, and oh my god, I can't tell what this is. There's something that my spider sense is tingling and telling me that, oh god, there's just something wrong with this picture. And apparently the coroner friend came visiting and the picture just happened to be out. You know, that's the way it always is. The picture just happened to be out, and the coroner said, oh my god, you know, I guess, what's going on, what's the matter? And then it was, oh my god, I can't, you know, I just can't get it. There's something wrong with this picture. And it was like, I'll tell you what's wrong with this picture. That person was killed. You
yeah,
know?
They were murdered.
Right, they were murdered. That's the terminology that was used. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, but see, that leaves a legal dilemma too, in the sense that, and law enforcement. I mean, this is going to be posted. Law enforcement, any law enforcement agencies out there that are listening to this, by all means, you are more than welcome to comment. I'd love to get the comment from a police officer or even a coroner watching this. And I believe, well, we actually found case law that says, and this is from New York, and it's federal case law, there's case law from all over the United States that says, in the event someone finds evidence pointing toward wrongdoing, that they have a duty to act. They have to notify the authorities that conducted the original investigation as to, hey, by the way, I'm Dr. So-and-so, I'm a coroner in, I don't know, Juneau, Alaska, and my friend just happened to have these pictures, and when I was looking at them, I noticed imperfections in the skull that appeared to be yada yada. And that's another thing. Not only was this coroner able to detect that it was multiple blunt force trauma, but that the type of tool that was used. And the tool even, Louise, the tool even has been anything from
identified.
the tool was identified.
A wrench, a crowbar.
Right. So I have different tools. I was brought around tools. I mean, a ratchet or a socket.
An Allen key.
Yeah, that got me. The Allen key. Yeah. Boy, you can really get hurt from one of those. You can really get nailed with one of those 2-inch keys. Yeah. So I mean.
Joe, can I just quickly read from? This is direct from the Hennepin Medical Examiner's office.
Okay.
The medical examiner examines all unexpected deaths in Hennepin, DeKalb, and Scott counties. So they even, the Crowleys went to probably like a higher tier coroner's.
Right, exactly.
Place.
Yep.
Not just the local coroners, kind of. They went to sort of like a county level, kind of.
More specialized.
Yeah, because it was an unexplained, unexpected triple death.
Right.
So you've already got like the kind of top-notch level expertise already looking at it.
Right. They didn't take. They took it's the equivalent of taking it to, say, Minneapolis, as opposed to bringing the bodies to Mayberry.
Yeah.
So they took. Yeah, that's it. I mean, and these doctors, especially. I mean, I've read numerous places that Hennepin County has actually written the protocols for several other states for their, ME practices, for the coroner's protocols. I mean, so if they do that, obviously they know what they're doing there.
They're ahead of the game, aren't they?
Right. And I mean, the other thing people don't realize is, in order to be a coroner, you have to attend 4 years of college. You have to have a bachelor's degree. After you have the bachelor's degree, you have to have 4 years of medical school, and then you spend 4 to 7 years as a resident, and that's just to get your license. That's not even to have a job where you're like in charge.
Exactly. And then to put all of that hard work in, all that time and money, to then have malicious rumours spread about you and your colleagues.
Yeah.
It's absolutely heart-wrenching.
I mean, I got to tell you, I really feel bad for the coroner that's involved in this. I mean, all that work going to school and all that work in the field. And I mean, you know, what people don't realize too about these coroners, when they're doing an autopsy, you know, yes, it's a job. Yes, they tend to detach themselves. However, they want to get closure for the families. They don't want to tell the families that, and in this case, you know, your loved one passed away from a gunshot wound to the head, and then 4 years later, oh my God, it wasn't a gunshot wound, it was blunt force trauma. Okay?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're also looking at trained professionals versus people that are getting information from books and they don't work in the field. That's a problem.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's fine to have an opinion, and in fact, it's great to have an opinion and to be interested in different things, and to try and seek justice. I don't have a problem with that, but it's when you start stating things as facts that clearly aren't facts. You know, there's a medical examiner out there whose career is being bashed and slated because someone has put it out there that a page from the Quran is a skull that's been beaten to death.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we also, there's going to be another show that's done, you know, within a couple of days or a week or so. There's another part to this story, and the individual or individuals did, in fact, forward their unofficial, unprofessional findings to the Apple Valley Police Department. Actually, it was to a lot more than the Apple Valley Police Department. It was the Apple Valley Police Department, the county attorney, the attorney general. I believe they said something like, I don't know, 15 or 20 packets went out.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, not one of these entities said let's open the investigation, reopen the investigation. As a matter of fact, there was another video done where, you know, an individual said that they weren't doing anything illegal, which they weren't. They weren't doing anything underhanded, which I think it was pretty underhanded to record somebody and not tell them they were being recorded and then blast it all over the internet. However, you know, in all fairness, you know, that individual did want to get the truth out, but it seemed from listening to the content of the video that the detective was saying one thing and then the interviewer was saying that he said something else. So what was done was, you know, the interjections, or I don't know, Louise, what would you call them? I call them interjections. Narratives?
Yeah. Interpretations?
Right. So we took that out and we had just the questions and just the answers. And, you know, there was another video that was released within the last 24 hours, and that video says that there's this major cover-up, even though the reported retired detective from Minneapolis had said, let me tell you something, if this was a cover-up, the case would remain open. It would not be closed. Because once you close, and this information is actually right, this part is definitely right. Once when an investigation is open, you are not going to be able to get anything unless it's released by the police department. So when it's closed, you can get a lot of evidence. And this happened in Minnesota. We actually looked up the Minnesota statutes, and in Minnesota, you can get the anything the police have except for things that are deemed to be where somebody who of normal stature, meaning John Smith walking down the street, would say, "Oh my God, that's disgusting," or "Oh God, I don't want to see that." You know, they also take, you know, the family into account, and they should. So, what, you know, the detective said, you know, hey, look, there's no cover up here, but yet they're alleging there's a cover up, and they're trashing the medical examiner, the police department, and anybody else that gets there, the family, the friends, the whole bit. And that's not right. So, but everybody 15 people were supposedly sent this information. And the detective who was assigned to the case, not only was he assigned to the case as an investigator, he was present during the autopsies, meaning he saw what the medical examiner that was doing this did. Not just this medical examiner. Now mind you, in addition to 3 or 4 police officers and that medical examiner, there was also a second medical examiner present, right?
Exactly.
So you got 2 medical examiners, not 1, and 3 or 4 cops.
Officers and investigators.
Okay. And they went over the evidence that these individuals sent to them. And if you watch the version of the video that is out there, it says, did you see the markings or the imperfections or anomalies to the skull, or didn't you? The detective says, no, I did not. He says, I was there, you weren't. He even said, you're from afar. That would be like me coming to me reading a report from my, in my state and sending it to your state and saying, hey, I found this. You weren't there. So this individual took that and said, so he either didn't see it, meaning he missed it, or he saw it, but he doesn't want to admit that he saw it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure.
But that's not what he said.
Well, actually, he clarified himself later on. He literally said not only were they confident in the ME and what they saw physically themselves, he said in the last 4 years, everything you guys have presented us, we have not seen anything.
Including the recently submitted data.
Well, he did. He also said that he physically did look at the photos and all this. They didn't see anything. Not that they missed it, but that they did not see anything. No, I mean...
He actually said, well, the best way that I can answer that question in terms of damage done to the Crowleys is myself and along with several other investigators were actually at the autopsies where the bodies were being examined by the medical examiner, and so we were right there while they were being examined. So for us, we worked hand in hand with the doctor, and everything that's going to be observed, not only by them but by our detectives, in terms of the autopsies and how they went. I was there, I observed the actual autopsy, so for me, I'm comfortable with what the medical examiner's job is, what they did, etc. He's happy. They're all in agreement with whatever they saw on those autopsy tables. They're all in agreement with. That's how I read it.
Right, exactly. And like I said, toward the end, he left it open. He wasn't rude. I mean, there was one portion when we did hear him just go, but that's fine. But the fact is, the detectives got your information. I mean, you may have thought you saw something, but those pictures have been seen by other people as well. And, you're looking at dried blood, you're looking at decay, you're looking at sections of the skull that were still containing some moisture. They weren't like wet, like fresh, but they were moist, so there was some density to the bone. I mean, how when a skull dries, it turns color. That's why when you see in your science class or your A&P class, the skulls are white. The bone is dry. So what you're seeing is, and I mean the other thing is too, what people may take as imperfections. Okay, your brain sits inside of the the cranial vault, and it moves around. There's fluid in there, stuff, but it does tend. It's not like just flopping around in there, or you'd be TBI. Everybody would have a TBI, but it's sitting in fluid. It's sitting there, kind of suspended. There's little meninges that keep it like sort of stable. But from the meninges and from the blood vessels, from sitting there constantly in your head, you can actually, if you look at the inside of a skull, you can actually see the vessels imprinted on the bone. So maybe this,
Yeah.
maybe they saw that. I don't know, but all I know is, and another thing, when you have an individual that shoots themselves, I mean, anybody who's seen ballistics testing, when they use the ballistics gel, when you fire that bullet, and we're talking a regular bullet, we're not even talking hollow points. Hollow points expand. Okay, so a regular bullet, we're talking a 40 grain bullet here. Okay, and I'm going to say that I'm not stating this part of the ballistics as a ballistics expert. However, I am going to say that in addition to speaking to officers, I have seen ballistic testing. Okay, the bullet will hit that gel and it will form a cavity. That's called hydrostatic shock. Okay, so and it expands the cavity, and then that bullet travels. Those are shock waves that are making that cavity there, causing further damage. But think about this. You know how the ballistic gel expands? You get it, Louise, it expands. Okay?
Yeah.
What happens when something expands and it can't go anywhere? It's gonna fracture. It's gonna break apart.
Yeah.
And then with the decay, the skull's going to fall apart anyways. There was talk about a mandible that was found, and that mandible, okay, would have naturally fallen off. And they're like, it was cut, it was boiled, da 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 da. It appeared boiled, okay, because it was white.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, as the bone dries, it's going to turn white. The other thing people didn't realize is they shot in on the jawbone that was on the famed blue blanket. Okay, you know how it was fat and it looked like it was open.
Yeah.
Okay, all that porous stuff you saw in the middle of the bone.
Yeah.
That's marrow.
Yeah.
And it's going to be natural in decomposition.
Exactly.
So, and I mean,
I found Dummett's statement regarding the further information that has been submitted.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm answering, but what I see is that we completed a thorough investigation and that I have not seen in anything to date, including the information you have provided me, that gives me any cause for concern that we missed anything and that it needs to be reopened. So there's nothing that I've seen from anyone, including your data, that changes where I'm at.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. That was earlier. That's what I was looking for, that statement. The other thing is too. I live in West Haven. It took me 2 months. I actually got to meet a pretty famous guy. I was actually really, really psyched. Took pictures of everything. It was pretty cool. So I met Henry Lee a couple weeks ago. Actually, yeah, we can have
Dr. Henry Lee, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
The world-renowned expert in forensics.
This guy is amazing. And I mean, but it's funny. He's very approachable. He's really nice.
Even over here in England, most people have heard of Henry Lee.
He was involved in the Richard Crafts case, and that case right there was really not even a body. That was the first case that Connecticut had minus an entire body. You can't charge somebody with murder without a body. The guy's like amazing.
Yeah.
I actually met him, in work circumstances a long time ago. I could remember the exact case. We had a kid by the name of Malik Jones. He tried to run over several police officers from East Haven that had chased him into New Haven on Grand Avenue. And Henry Lee is the one that came and did the reconstruction of the crime scene. The guy's great. I mean, the Michael Peterson case, the staircase murders, he was involved in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you would think that somebody with that kind of
He's top caliber, isn't he?
Yeah, he's great. And I mean, I showed him the reports. I showed him the public information. Okay. we went over some of this stuff. I'm going to be putting that out in a, in a later.
That's another show, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's another. I mean, it is another show. But I gotta tell you, one thing that he said. Okay, now he pointed out a couple things. First off, no investigation is going to be perfect, especially something of this magnitude. These officers probably never saw anything like this in their entire career, so it's overwhelming. And with what they did, I mean, because I have the BCA reports, I have the Apple Valley, the reports, the incident reports and the supplementals, the autopsies, everything. I mean, it's not like I mean, I sent him some of the stuff, before I got there. But I also, went over some things there, and he said, even though it doesn't seem perfect, they did a thorough report. They did a thorough investigation. I mean, and that's what people don't get. And if it was a cover-up, okay, if it was a cover-up or the case was totally screwed up, okay, the case would have been closed in a couple of months, okay.
Yeah.
This went on for a year, and it's not. And if people took the time to look, and I'm not even talking about the autopsies, because the autopsies were done relatively soon, okay. But if you take a look, okay, at even the actual the police report with the incident report and the following supplementals, okay, you got the incident, you got the report from the day of the day of the finding. Of the 17th, you have something on the 18th, you have something like the 22nd. You got, and then as it gets further away, it's not as condensed where you're getting something every day, but you're getting a couple things a week or a couple things every couple of weeks. So I mean, it's there. It didn't stop. In other words, somebody didn't say, okay, quality case, throw the thing down, and we'll come see you in a month.
Yeah.
So they were working on this. And you wouldn't see that. I mean, think about this as well. Every time a test was conducted, no matter what it was, that was costing the taxpayers. Okay, they're not, and they're not gonna charge thousands and thousands of dollars to try to hide something. They're gonna go in there. And they're going to just go in there, do some testing, and it's going to be okay. And the other thing is, too, now mind you, and you're aware of this, okay, you've seen, okay, a couple things I want to toss out there. First off, when we get into DNA, lack of DNA, okay?
Yeah.
This case, at least, for the advanced group, actually has experts with names. Henry Lee just said, looked at this stuff recently, and when the video comes out, they'll hear what he said to me. We had Greg Hampikian. Greg Hampikian. He's a DNA expert, as you know. He was involved in the John Bonet case, the Amanda Knox case. As well as several other high-profile cases. We have emails back and forth to him. As a matter of fact, afterwards, believe it or not, Hampikian is from Norwalk, Connecticut. So after everything, after he gave me all the information he did, I asked him. I said, "Hey, listen, is there anything I can do for you?" And he was like, "I'd like to get a picture from Norwalk." So I went down to the beach, took some pictures, and sent them back. He was just with the doctor order kind of thing, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, he told me if I ever come up.
Didn't you send him a collection of different photos?
I sent him a bunch of them. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so he told me if I'm ever up that way, to stop in and see him. We also had another professor who's also known all over the place. His name is Dan Crane, and that's with the K. He gave us a lot of information regarding the DNA. I mean, I gotta tell you, when I first heard the term touch DNA, I thought it just meant you touched it with your hand and that was it, or you rubbed against it. and that wasn't the only thing. Touch DNA had just meant that it was a very minute amount, and
yeah.
yeah, and I mean, you also remember the video that I did with Jessica, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a woman that runs a state police DNA crime lab, and she was going into the, you know, to the Touch DNA stuff with me as well, and it was just so much. I mean, they can get a couple, like they call them picograms. I can still remember they call them picograms. They can get like a couple picograms, and they replicate them through this RNA process, and it's like, then they got enough. They do the testing, and this is where it came from. And the funny thing is, that I wanted to point out too, because of Bullet 57, and that was the repack bullet, by the way. So Bullet 57. They said that they found DNA on the bullet, but you know, it wasn't blood. It wasn't. Okay, this is what all three of them told me: him, Pikean, Crane, and Jessica. Okay.
Yeah.
You may not have been able to physically see blood. Okay.
Yeah.
But if it had DNA, DNA is not distinguishable, or it's indistinguishable. You're going to get a reading of DNA from skin cells. You're going to get a reading of DNA from brain matter. You're going to get a reading of DNA from. So it had DNA on it. That's the thing. You know, the DNA was fact DNA. So I mean, my thing is the what do you call it? The there's a lot of, I don't want, you know, maybe I'm using the wrong word of misinformation or disinformation. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt.
Misinterpreted.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's misinterpreted. They're looking at things, and I mean, but again, you know, you're talking trained professionals versus untrained. I mean, you know, when I took my paramedic class, okay, my class was a couple of years long, and the first whole year of my class, well, more than like a little less than the first year, was all anatomy and physiology before they even started getting into drugs and everything. So I mean, and these guys go in for their original stuff, you know, their original stuff like A&P and this and that. And then they're going in there, microbiology. I mean, that's why they're the professionals. But I mean, you know, I go based on some, you know, some things. Like, I know the damage a bullet can cause. I've done shootings, okay? I've done homicides. I've been there working hand in hand with the cops, you know? I've been, you know, and this isn't tooting my horn, I've been at scenes where people have been deceased for a period of time, you know? And, I mean, you take somebody who has experience versus somebody who reads it in books. There's something that we were taught in our classes, okay? The stuff they teach you, and a lot of that's out of books, okay? Those are guidelines. You're not going to find textbook out there, you know. So, but then, I mean, the other thing is, I've seen people go out there and say, you know, that people involved in this say, hey, you know, I might make a mistake, but if I make a mistake, I admit I'm wrong. I think I've seen I've seen one thing. I mean,
I know.
Well,
I've seen a lot of people say that, but when it actually comes down to removing the fake, well, not the fake, sorry, that's the wrong word to use, removing the false information, or the outdated information, and putting up the clarified information, and then the next thing you're seeing these crazy accusations that are stemmed from something that's not even true being passed around like it's fact.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, there seems to be a discrepancy as to how long the Crowley family was in their home, and some of that, I'll even say maybe, okay, there was some sort of a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, as you know, and this is not like Dan Crane and Greg Hampikian, Dr. Kelly from the El Paso County, Colorado coroner's office, actually, or medical examiner's office, actually, stated that he had viewed, I guess he viewed pictures from the scene or whatever, and he said that it wasn't his. Well, first of all, his opinion was that the original investigators had done, a decent job, and he actually agreed with the findings of those investigators. So, I mean, I actually, but then that was taken and turned around into, no, it wasn't, almost 3 weeks or over 3 weeks. It was 7 to 10 days. And then, I mean, and the thing was too, okay, this was, not only was that said, but there were a couple pot shots that were taken, at Judy, and a few other people, and, and based on supposedly what Dr. Kelly had said, and, I mean, and we've seen the stuff from Judy, and actually from Dr. Kelly directly, and he outright states in writing, he believes the findings of Minnesota. That's it. And he apologized. And I mean, the other thing is too, and once again, when you're not a police officer or a paramedic, I mean, you know what? I'll give you an example. Here you go. I'm not a medic anymore. I retired. Okay, but at least I know what. If I came up on you, and said, "Hey, I used to be a paramedic," you'd probably trust me to help you out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Joe, you could save my life if I need it.
but here's the thing. Picture somebody pulling up to you and saying, "I can save you. I read this in a book, and I can." You're going to feel comfortable with that? You're going to let them shove something in you?
Well, funnily enough, I've been reading a book about flying a plane. Fancy going for a ride?
Well, I actually heard something that I kind of cracked up at, too. It was had to do with ballistics, and it was like, I didn't know, I mean, this is pretty, like, almost verbatim. I didn't know anything about ballistics, but I read a bunch of books and I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and now I'm an expert.
Yep, I've heard that one.
So,
I've also heard when you've been telling someone what, I think it was what Dan Crane has been saying, and somebody said, "I'll have to go and check. This person is not qualified. This person doesn't even study in forensics yet. Feel it's their place to go and call out and check in a world-class expert." But
Well, that, I mean, that was something else too, because I mean, you remember even going back to Dr. Kelly stuff. Dr. Kelly said, I was trying. He was trying to educate the person. Remember that? I was trying to explain, and basically he, a guy who went to school and does this on a daily basis, was getting told, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh my, but
I mean, I know we sort of, we laugh, we do laugh about it, but, the way I see it is you've got a guy who is he's a busy man, and he took the time out, and he tried to educate and put that time in to having a good conversation about his speciality as career.
Right.
And yet he found himself in school.
Yep, exactly. I mean, the other thing is too...
And misquoted. And
big
lots
time.
from YouTube.
Yep. Well, that seems to be...
able to have any recourse. It's only if you were to contact him.
Well, you know...
would say, that's not how I remember that meeting.
Well, that's the other thing, you know. It really blows my mind that somebody would, you know, say that somebody would actually go, okay, here, let me give you what I think I found, and then they don't get the results they want, so we're going to dig our heels in.
Yeah.
We want everybody to call and overload Apple Valley Police Department's phones, call and complain, call and do this, da-da-da-da. I mean, you know, I feel bad for these guys. I really, really do. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you already know, you know, around the anniversary, you know, I mean, it's tough on the family. It's tough on these cops, too. You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then to have people calling, I saw it on YouTube, so it must be right. You know, it's like sort of, it was on the internet, so it must be true.
I watched the documentary.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, and I mean, I'll even go as far as this. You know, I'll agree with some of these people, you know, on this and only this.
Yeah.
When the documentary was done, okay, whoever does a movie, whoever does a documentary, they want you to see things the way they want you to see it. If they've done that, then they've done their job. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, so, and you know, I think this needs to come out because between cover-up and I've heard everything in this case from, and mind you, a lot of this, you know, is documented. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember this guy's name. I just saw his name yesterday. Something the second. What do you call it? Talking about a government wet team. Okay, and we've heard the government did it, and then it wasn't the government. It was this one or that one. It was like spin the wheel. Who's going to be the lucky contestant this month? You know, and it wasn't even this month. It was like, I got to tell you.
How long list of accused suspects are we talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that if this was indeed what's being portrayed, if it was the government, okay, if it was any of these supposed people who have handlers and are agents, you know, I don't know if you remember. Actually, you were accused too. Remember when we were accused of being agents? Yeah. I tell you,
government shills and all the rest of it.
I wish to God I was an agent because I could sure use the money. Okay?
Just because I've had a different opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but here's the thing. Do these people really realize that if it was the government, I mean, look, I'm all for conspiracies. I believe some stuff was conspiracy. John F. Kennedy is a big one of them, okay? Speaking of which, how many people from the Kennedy assassination actually made it, okay? You got Kennedy getting killed. Within a couple of days, the shooter, Oswald's history, Jack Ruby comes and takes Oswald out. He's gone. They got all these witnesses having all these crazy deaths. Even recently, stuff with like the Clintons and stuff. Boom. Okay. So I mean, so I find it amazing that if David was trying to be silenced and his movie was trying to get, like, they were trying to stop it from being made.
Yeah.
You have the trailer out there. You have The Rise out there. Okay. Everything David's posted for the most part is there. You know, the supposed they had handlers, but what do you call the government? Oh my God, I'm trying to remember what they whatever. These guys that were supposedly. Well, no. The handlers. You had the handlers. You had the guys that were. They were first they were informants. Yeah, informants, infiltrators. All these guys.
I mean, even Judy and Colin are apparent like agents of some faraway secret agency.
Yeah, I mean that's funny because my understanding is it was either before David was born or right after they purchased their house. So it was like in about 20 years, there's going to be this guy, and he's going to come, and he's going to try to make this movie. So